She invited me on her podcast to talk about my son's car accident. Seemed sympathetic at first, tell us about that tragic day, she said, all fake compassion. Then, live on air, in front of 50,000 listeners, she said, honestly though, if your son had been paying attention instead of being on his phone, he wouldn't be in a wheelchair now, would he? My disabled son, who she just blamed for his own paralysis, on her podcast, in front of her entire audience. What this heartless podcast host didn't know was that I had the police report, the medical records, and the dash cam footage proving my son wasn't at fault. And by the time I was done with her, she didn't just lose her podcast, she lost her sponsorships, her credibility, and her career. Hey everyone, it's Grandma, and I need to warn you, this story is going to make you absolutely furious before it gives you the most satisfying justice you've ever seen. We're talking about a disabled teenager, a viral podcast host, victim blaming on live radio, and revenge so methodical it destroyed an entire media career. Before we get into this complete annihilation of a podcaster, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because I'm bringing you justice stories every single day, and when we're done, I want you to comment the word justice if you think this podcast host got what she deserved. Alright, let's talk about Linda, her son Michael, and the podcast interview that ended a career. This story is about a woman named Linda, 49 years old, single mother, raised her son Michael alone after his father walked out when Michael was 2. She worked 2 jobs most of Michael's childhood, overnight shifts as a nurse, then picking up weekend shifts at a clinic. Everything to give Michael a good life, a good education, opportunities. Michael was a great kid, honor student, varsity soccer player, 17 years old, senior year of high school, full scholarship to college already secured. He was driving home from soccer practice one Tuesday evening when a drunk driver ran a red light at 60 miles per hour and T-boned Michael's car on the driver's side. Michael survived, barely, 3 weeks in ICU, multiple surgeries, fractured spine. The doctors did everything they could, but the damage was catastrophic. Michael would never walk again, 17 years old, paralyzed from the waist down, forever. Linda quit one of her jobs to take care of him. Their house wasn't wheelchair accessible. She took out a second mortgage to install ramps, widen doorways, renovate the bathroom. Physical therapy 5 days a week, occupational therapy, psychological counseling because Michael was suicidal for the first 6 months. I'd rather be dead than live like this, he told her more than once. But Michael was a fighter. Slowly, painfully, he started adapting. Learned to use the wheelchair, went back to school his senior year, graduated, deferred his college scholarship for a year while he continued therapy, but he was determined to go. The drunk driver got 8 years in prison. Not nearly enough, but at least he was locked up. The insurance settlement helped with medical bills, but it didn't cover everything. Linda was drowning in debt. That's when someone suggested she share Michael's story publicly. It could help other families going through this, and maybe bring in some donations to help with costs. Linda was hesitant. Michael was private, but medical bills were crushing them. So when a podcast host named Jessica Rivera reached out, I'd love to feature Michael's story on my show, Real Talk. With Jessica, we focus on inspiring survival stories. Linda thought it might be good. Jessica's podcast was huge, 50,000 listeners per episode, sponsorships from major companies. She covered true crime, accidents, survival stories. Very popular in the accident investigation podcast space. Linda researched Jessica's show. The episode seemed respectful, empathetic. Jessica interviewed accident survivors, their families, first responders. It seemed legitimate. Jessica emailed Linda personally. I was so moved by Michael's story. I'd be honored to give him a platform. We'll be sensitive. I promise. Linda talked to Michael. He was nervous but agreed. If it helps other people, maybe it's worth it. They scheduled the interview. LivePodcast recording would go out to Jessica's 50,000 subscribers immediately. Linda and Michael showed up at the studio. Jessica greeted them warmly. Thank you so much for coming. This is going to be powerful. The interview started fine. Jessica asked about the accident. Linda described that horrible night, the phone call from the hospital, seeing Michael in ICU. The doctors telling her he'd never walk again. She was crying as she spoke, reliving the trauma. Michael talked about his recovery, the pain, the depression, learning to live in a wheelchair. He was articulate, brave. Listeners were sending live messages. So inspiring, what a strong young man. Then Jessica's tone shifted. 40 minutes into the interview, she said, Linda, I have to ask, and I hope this doesn't sound insensitive, but I did some research. Michael's accident happened at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. That's rush hour. And the police report mentions that Michael's phone was found on the floor of the car. Linda felt her stomach drop. Where was this going? Jessica continued, speaking directly to the camera, to her audience. I'm just wondering, and listeners, this is something we need to talk about. Was Michael distracted? Was he on his phone when the accident happened? No, Linda said immediately. The police investigated thoroughly. Michael wasn't at fault, but Jessica talked over her. Because here's the thing, young drivers, cell phones, we see this all the time, and I think it's important that we're honest about these situations. Michael, were you texting when the drunk driver hit you? Michael, 17 years old, disabled, sitting in his wheelchair in this woman's studio, said, no, I wasn't on my phone. The drunk driver ran a red light. Jessica cut him off again. But your phone was found on the floor. That suggests it was in your hand when impact occurred, which means you were probably looking at it instead of the road. Linda couldn't believe what she was hearing. That's not what happened. The police report. Linda, Jessica said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. I understand you want to protect your son, but we have to consider all possibilities. The truth is, if Michael had been paying full attention to the road, he might have seen the other car coming, might have swerved, might have avoided this. The live chat was exploding. Listeners were divided. Some were defending Michael, others were agreeing with Jessica. She has a point. Distracted driving is a real problem. Jessica leaned forward. Honestly though, Michael, if you'd been paying attention instead of being on your phone, you wouldn't be in a wheelchair right now, would you? The studio went silent. Michael's face crumbled. He started crying, this 17-year-old kid in a wheelchair, being blamed for his own paralysis on a podcast with 50,000 listeners. Linda stood up. We're done. This interview is over. Jessica smiled at the camera. And there you have it, folks. Sometimes the truth is uncomfortable. We'll take a quick break. Linda wheeled Michael out of that studio. He was sobbing. Mom, she said it was my fault. She said I caused this. She's wrong, Linda said, shaking with rage. She's absolutely wrong. But the damage was done. The podcast went live immediately. Within an hour, it had 10,000 downloads. People were commenting, sharing clips. The segment where Jessica blamed Michael went viral on TikTok. Podcast host calls out teen for distracted driving. Linda's phone was blowing up. Friends texting. Did Michael really cause his own accident? People at church asking questions. Michael's college called someone had sent them the podcast. They wanted to discuss concerns about his character. Michael locked himself in his room. Wouldn't come out. Wouldn't eat. Linda heard him crying through the door. 3 days later, she found the bottle of pain pills he'd hidden. He'd been planning to take them all. Linda got him into emergency psychiatric care. He was suicidal again. All the progress he'd made destroyed. Because Jessica Rivera had blamed him for his own disability on her podcast to boost her ratings. But while Michael was in the hospital, Linda was planning. She'd spent 3 days crying, panicking, trying to help her son. Now she was going to destroy the woman who'd hurt him. First, Linda pulled the police report. The full one, not the summary. It clearly stated, no evidence of distracted driving. Driver's phone records show no activity at time of accident. Phone likely fell from cup holder during impact. Accident caused 100% by intoxicated driver running red light at high speed. Victim driver had no opportunity to avoid collision. Then Linda got the dash cam footage. Michael's car had a dash cam. It showed everything. Michael driving normally, hands on wheel, eyes on road. The drunk driver running the red light. Impact, no. Phone in Michael's hands. No distraction. Then Linda got statements from the doctors, the police officers at the scene, the accident, reconstruction specialist, all saying the same thing: Michael did nothing wrong. This was 100% the drunk driver's fault. Linda compiled everything into a document, 53 pages. Every piece of evidence, every expert statement, every proof that Jessica Rivera had lied on her podcast and blamed a disabled teenager for his own paralysis. Then Linda started making calls. She called every single sponsor of Jessica's podcast, 15 companies. She sent each of them the evidence packet. Your company is sponsoring a podcast host who victim blamed a paralyzed teenager with false information. Is this the content you want associated with your brand? Within 48 hours, 12 of the 15 sponsors pulled out. They issued statements: we do not condone victim blaming or spreading misinformation. We have terminated our partnership with Real Talk with Jessica. Linda wasn't done. She contacted the podcast network that hosted Jessica's show, sent them the evidence. Your host spread false information that damaged my disabled son's reputation and caused him to attempt suicide. He's currently in psychiatric care. Here's the proof she lied. The network launched an investigation, pulled the episode offline, issued a public apology. We are reviewing the situation and taking appropriate action. Linda posted the full evidence packet online, Reddit, Twitter, TikTok. Podcast host blamed my paralyzed son for his own accident. Here's the proof she lied. It went viral. 10 million views in 3 days. Bigger than Jessica's original video. News outlets picked it up. Podcast host under fire for blaming teen accident victim. Jessica tried to defend herself. Posted a video. I was just asking tough questions. That's what journalists do. But Linda had receipts. She posted the unedited audio from the interview. Jessica had cut parts that made Michael look good, kept parts that made him look guilty. Jessica had manipulated the episode to create a false narrative for clicks. The backlash was massive. Jessica's remaining sponsors dropped her. Her podcast network cancelled her show. Effective immediately, Real Talk with Jessica has been discontinued. Jessica lost 50,000 subscribers in a week. Her social media accounts were flooded with people calling her out. She tried to apologize. I'm sorry if anyone was offended. Linda responded publicly. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. My son tried to kill himself because of your lies. Your apology means nothing. The pile-on continued. Other podcast victims came forward. Jessica did the same thing to me. Twisted my story for drama. She edited my interview to make me look bad. 7 different people with similar stories. Jessica's career imploded. No network would touch her. No sponsors would work with her. She tried to start an independent podcast, got 300 subscribers, down from 50,000. She tried to get a job in media. Every application was rejected. Aren't you the one who blamed that paralyzed kid? No one wanted to hire her. 6 months after the interview, Jessica was working at a call center, making $12 an hour. Her Wikipedia page's first line: former podcast host known for victim-blaming controversy. Meanwhile, Michael was recovering. The evidence Linda had published proved he wasn't at fault. His college reaffirmed his scholarship. "We're sorry we doubted you. That podcast host was wrong." People sent donations. Strangers who'd seen Linda's evidence packet and wanted to help. They raised $170,000 for Michael's medical expenses and adaptive equipment. A different podcast, a legitimate, ethical one, reached out. "We'd love to feature Michael's real story. If he's comfortable." Michael agreed. This time, the host was respectful. Didn't twist anything. Didn't blame him. Just let him tell his truth. That episode got 200,000 downloads. Comments flooded in. "Thank you for sharing. You're so brave. Jessica Rivera should be ashamed." Michael started a YouTube channel about adapting to disability, fitness routines for wheelchair users, product reviews for adaptive equipment, mental health talk for newly disabled people. He got 50,000 subscribers in 6 months, the same number Jessica lost. A university invited Michael to speak, then another, then a nonprofit that supports accident victims. Michael found purpose, found his voice, started helping other people going through what he went through. And all of his success, his healing, his platform happened because Linda refused to let Jessica's lies stand, because she fought back with truth. 2 years later, Linda saw Jessica at a grocery store. Jessica looked terrible, tired, defeated. She saw Linda and Michael and tried to walk the other way. Linda called out, "Jessica." Jessica stopped, turned. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I'm really sorry. I was wrong." Linda looked at her. "You almost killed my son. Your lies made him suicidal. You destroyed his reputation for ratings. And when you got caught, you only apologized because your career ended." "I know," Jessica whispered. "I lost everything." "Good," Linda said. And she walked away. Because that's the thing about public figures who harm people for content. They don't deserve redemption arcs. They deserve consequences. Jessica tried a few more comebacks. Started a blog, nobody read it. Tried TikTok, got ratioed in the comments every time. "Isn't this the lady who blamed that kid in a wheelchair? She couldn't escape it." She moved to a different state, changed her name on social media. But the internet never forgets. Someone always recognized her, always brought up the Michael incident. 5 years later, the contrast is stark. Michael is 22, in college, thriving. He's a disability rights advocate, speaks at conferences, has 100,000 YouTube subscribers, has a girlfriend they met at a wheelchair basketball game. He's living a full, meaningful life. And he's strong. Not despite the wheelchair, not despite the accident. Just strong, period. Linda went back to nursing. But now she also volunteers with accident victim families, helps them navigate the medical system, the insurance companies, the media if their stories go public. She makes sure no one else gets victimized by predatory content creators. Jessica is 41 now, works in customer service, lives alone, tried to start dating every date, Googles her name and finds the story. She's essentially unhireable in media, unemployable in any public-facing role. She wrote Linda a letter last year, a real apology, not the public PR statement kind. "I understand if you never forgive me. I don't forgive myself. What I did was cruel and wrong. I destroyed your son's mental health for ratings. I deserve everything that happened to me. Linda read the letter and threw it away. Because some apologies come too late, some damage can't be undone, and Jessica didn't deserve absolution. The final scene of this story is Michael at a disability rights conference. He's the keynote speaker, 500 people in the audience. He's talking about resilience, about rebuilding after trauma, about not letting other people's narratives define you. Someone once told me, he says from his wheelchair, that my disability was my fault, that I caused my own paralysis. She said it on a podcast to 50,000 people. And for a while, I believed her. I wanted to die. The audience is silent, listening. But my mom fought back. She proved that woman lied. She held her accountable. And in doing that, she taught me something important. You don't have to accept other people's lies about you. You can fight back. You can tell your own truth. He pauses. That podcast host lost everything. Her show, her sponsors, her career. And I'm not sorry. Because she hurt me, tried to destroy my reputation. And she did it knowing it wasn't true. Some people deserve their consequences. The audience erupts in applause. Standing ovation. 500 people on their feet, clapping for this young man who refused to be destroyed by someone else's lies. And in the back of the room, Linda watches her son strong, successful, alive, and knows she did the right thing. She didn't just defend Michael. She taught him to defend himself, to demand truth too. Never let cruelty go unchallenged. And that is what happens when you victim blame a disabled teenager for ratings. Jessica thought she could twist Michael's story for content, thought she could blame him for his paralysis and boost her download numbers. She forgot that mothers protect their children, and that lies, when exposed, destroy the liar. You know what Grandma always says. The truth is the most powerful weapon you have. When someone lies about you, don't just get mad. Get evidence. Then burn their lies to the ground. Linda did exactly that. She gathered every piece of proof, published it all, let the truth speak for itself, and Jessica's career died from exposure to facts. Michael didn't just survive Jessica's attack. He thrived, built a platform bigger than hers, helped more people than she ever did. Became the kind of person who uses pain to help others instead of exploiting others' pain for clicks. Jessica's Wikipedia page, her Google results, her entire digital footprint is permanently marked by what she did to Michael. Every future employer, every potential date, every person who searches her name finds the story of how she blamed a paralyzed teenager for his own disability and got destroyed for it. If this story made you want to applaud Linda for fighting back and Michael for surviving, I need you to do something. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and comment the word justice too. Honor every person who's been victim blamed and fought back. Let's flood these comments. Let's show every survivor that their truth matters more than someone else's narrative. Remember, folks, I'm bringing you stories of accountability and justice every single day. Hit that notification bell. Next time someone tries to twist your story for their benefit, remember Linda and Michael. Get your evidence, tell your truth, and let the consequences destroy the liar. This is Grandma reminding you that the truth always wins eventually, and sometimes it wins spectacularly. Peace, everyone.